This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Films and Fermentation, episode 160. We have another rounded out number there that we've reached, 160, getting really close to that 200th episode. I don't know what the hell we're going to do for that one, but we'll have to figure out something fun.
The full Monty.
Yeah, we're going to do it naked, you're saying, or we're just going to review the full Monty?
Yes.
My wife just made a yuck sound in the background. I'm going to assume it's about the movie and not about us. So speaking of fun episodes, tonight we're talking about death. So we're going to be looking at some movie character deaths that we still think about, that still haunt us till this day after having watched those films. Yes, folks, you are listening to Films and Fermentation, a movie and alcohol podcast. I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
We're three friends who like talk shit about movies while getting shit-faced. In this episode, we're discussing those character deaths that still haunt our dreams and make us question our emotional stability. Yes, it's the ultimate list of why did they have to go moments, guaranteed to stir your soul and maybe even bring a tear to your beer. So grab a tissue, pour yourself a drink, and join us as we toast to the dearly departed characters who have left us way too soon. Don't forget to drop us an email at filmsandfermentation@gmail.com or visit linktree.com/filmsandfermentation on all our social media and podcast links. Become part of the Films and Fermentation family. We are part of the Deluxe Edition Network at deluxeeditionnetwork.com. The Den. We have the Denny Awards coming up soon in September. We have an online survey you can go to so you can vote for us. The link will be in the description of the show across all of the podcast platforms that we belong to. So check out the Den at deluxeeditionnetwork.com and check out the current podcasts that we are promoting: Spoil My Movie Podcast and the Graveyard Club.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Mel.
And together we host the podcast
Spoil My Movie. We were watching movies anyway.
And we were having in-depth conversations about those movies too.
So we decided to share our thoughts with the world.
You can expect me to gripe about inaccurate details like supposedly cold weather, but you can't see anyone's breath.
And you can expect me to be totally adorable, but also psychologically deep.
And by the end of each episode, we'll provide our respective ratings,
using a rating scale custom tailored to the movie in question.
Check us out wherever you get your podcasts.
We're everywhere. We're actually behind you right now.
Are you looking for a place for all things horror and don't know where to go?
Well, you've came to the right place, my friend. We are the Graveyard Club podcast. For all your horror needs, visit us on YouTube and Spotify, and you can follow us over on Instagram at the Graveyard Club Pod. See you there.
Ciao.
I like listening to the Graveyard Club just because their accents are awesome. What are we drinking tonight, gentlemen? Mike, are you on call this week?
No.
Okay, good. So what do you got going on?
I'm not on call again until October, so I'm drinking an Old Smoky Tennessee Moonshine Blackberry Lemonade Cocktail.
So I like those. Those are so good. Kev, what are you drinking this evening, sir?
I am embarking on a very, very local favorite, the Double Nickel Sessions India Pale Ale. It's Pennsauken, New Jersey, which is not too far away from the city I live in. It is at a lower ABV. This India Pale Ale is designed to be enjoyed by all. The recipe is highlighted by a hop bill that includes Citra, Cascade, and Simcoe. It's 4.7% alcohol by volume. And then I have my Warwick Farm Brewing Brodello New Traditions, which is a Mexican lager. It's got a hint of lime flavor to it. I don't think there's anything describing the beer on the label. It's 5.1% alcohol by volume. And I will be finishing with a non-alcoholic beer, or a non-alcoholic beverage, the Liquid Death that I showed you guys a couple episodes ago.
So water, basically, just
water, but death related.
Death related. I was at my sister-in-law's this weekend, and she is only about an hour and 40 minutes or so from the Finger Lakes. So I took it upon myself to do a little day trip by myself to my favorite brewery up in the Finger Lakes on Lake Seneca, the Warhorse Brewery, where I picked up their Oktoberfest, which they just released again this year. You guys have had this. I bought it for you guys last year when I went up there for my birthday. Mm-hmm. It is the Warhorse Rolling Storm Oktoberfest. The picture of FDR on the front there. It's 5.5% alcohol by volume. It is a very, very good Oktoberfest. That's what I'm starting with tonight. And then I also have some of their bombshell hard ciders that I picked up as well that I'll probably be transitioning to at some point. I have a strawberry hard cider and a raspberry hard cider that I'm looking forward to as well. So that is where I'm going tonight for my drinks. Mike, anything special happen this week?
This week in film history, 1953, From Here to Eternity, based on the book by James Jones, directed by Fred Zimmerman, and starring Burt Lancaster, Montgomery Clift, and Frank Sinatra, is released. Academy Award for Best Picture in 1954.
So won the Academy Award for Best Picture. Frank Sinatra also won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for this movie. And it is the movie and the Oscar-winning role that supposedly Mario Puzo borrowed from for The Godfather. When The Godfather's godson is crying about the movie he wanted to be in and couldn't get it, and they go and give the movie producer an offer he couldn't refuse. It's supposedly based on this incident with From Here to Eternity and why Frank Sinatra was in that film. What's the second one? I know it's a good one. Thank you, Molly.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe she doesn't like the second one.
I think she's giving us her second one there. She's talking about all dogs went to heaven or something like that.
That's it.
Go ahead, Mike. What's the second one you got?
1960, Los Angeles premieres of Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, starring Anthony Perkins and Janet Leigh.
Yeah, I love Psycho. This is one of those often imitated but never duplicated kind of things where Janet Leigh was top billed in the film and then got killed like 10 minutes into it. And so that became like a big thing, like whenever an actor is billed for something and then you don't see them again after 10 minutes.
You mean like Drew Barrymore in Scream?
Like Drew Barrymore in Scream. They were comparing her to Janet Leigh after that. And I'm not including Anne Heche in the terrible remake of Psycho with Vince Vaughn.
When you said duplicated, not imitated, or something like what you just said, I was thinking, no, that rehash was
that reboot
done exactly, scene for scene.
Tried to duplicate.
Yeah,
that's why I said never duplicate it. You know. Just imitate it, but a great film. I love Hitchcock films in general. And speaking of great films, one that I talked about a little bit lately because I rewatched it not too long ago and forgot how fucking awesome it is.
In 1973, American Graffiti, directed by George Lucas, opens in cinemas across the United States.
One of the best movie soundtracks of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had it on my list when we did our movie soundtrack episode a couple episodes ago. All right. Next one, Mike.
In 1985, a adventure comedy film Pee-wee's Big Adventure starring Paul Rubens is released.
I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I?
It's funny, is like you remember like those like kind of childish jokes and stuff, and I watched it a lot as a kid because my sisters would put it on every day after school and annoyed the shit out of me, and I hated it for so long. And then kind of rewatched it a little bit later as an adult and realized it's actually kind of a funny movie.
Did you do the tape thing in the mirror, putting it all around your face?
There's also some moments in it though that are kind of adult, which you don't really get when you're a kid, and it's it's funny like that.
Tell them Marge sent you.
Give me this next one here, Mike. I love this one. I've actually talked about this in class when I taught like banned books with my kids.
In 2018, China bans release of Winnie the Pooh movie Christopher Robin after character used to mock Chinese President Xi Jinping.
Good job.
Yeah.
Pretty close there. Pretty close. Xi Jinping. This also comes from the fact that China banned all copies of Winnie the Pooh books in their country because they don't allow literature that involves animals that act human, anthropomorphic animals. So you can't find Winnie the Pooh anywhere in China.
But don't they also have the largest population of like furries?
Yeah,
you know.
Japan. I think it's Japan. Japan's fucking weird. They let anything in their country.
Yeah, so you mean you're just trying to say is Hong Kong Disney doesn't have Pooh Bear?
Yeah, probably not. I don't think it would have any.
I mean, that would cut out a lot of Disney. Yeah,
you know what? So Hong Kong would, because Hong Kong is an independent state. I think the rest of China is communist.
Okay, because I thought it went back to China after a couple years ago from Great Britain.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm not a political or geographic expert, so I'm not even going to try to figure it out. Let's just move on to the next one.
In 2023, Barbie film passes $1 billion at the global box office. Its director, Greta Gerwig, is the first solo female filmmaker to do so.
Yep, it's supposedly Barbie and Oppenheimer were the movies that were going to bring life back to the box office. And it didn't quite happen the way studios had wanted it to until the release of the recent film, Deadpool and Wolverine, which is quickly entering $1 billion gross mark itself.
Heard a lot of good things about that movie.
I have. I've seen a lot of spoilers on YouTube already because these motherfuckers cannot spoil things for you.
Yeah.
All right, Sarah, what do you got? Must-try beer craft destination for us, Steven?
I have a destination for us in Illinois. It's the Half Acre Brewery. Founder Gabriel Magliario began Half Acre in 2006, and the brewery moved to Chicago's hip North Center neighborhood in 2009. Half Acre has since opened another 60,000 square foot facility at 2050 West Balmoral Avenue that includes a tap room and an additional outdoor beer garden. They offer a substantial food menu, a rotating selection of seasonal beers, special offerings, and barrel-aged beers, including Bethnick, a bourbon barrel-aged imperial stout with coconut and coffee. Oh, that kicked Leo out. He can't stand coconut.
Nope, I'm not a coconut guy. Okay. Kev, again, I forgot to ask you, do you have any beer news tonight?
Yeah, I'll come up with something.
One of these days, I will remember to ask you in pre-show.
One of these days, I'll tell you in pre-show.
You know what you should do?
I think it's much fun because it's a surprise to both you and me when we get to this point in the segment.
I was going to say, since I share the notes with you, you could always put in the notes, hey, I got beer news tonight.
Where would the fun be in that? Where would the fun be in that?
All right. Speaking of fun.
Beer is good! Beer is good! Beer is good! It's not! Beer is good! Beer is good! Beer is good! Let's go drink some beer!
Hello, everybody. Beer news brought to you by Films and Fermentation, I guess. We only have a couple articles to go into. Gentlemen, when you think of tacos, what do you want to wash a taco down with?
Milk.
Yes, that's it. Tacos and milk. Or
Salsa.
salsa.
Just drink the salsa right there.
Drink the salsa.
No,
some
that,
people
that
choose
cream cheese sauce from on the border.
Some people enjoy having it with beer. And apparently in San Francisco, they have a taco and beer festival. Yeah, sounds like it should be good, right? But you'd be wrong.
Another place to add to the road trip.
Yeah, that sounds like that should be the last personal road trip. Good Lord, the gas is going to come out.
That sounds like we need to stay there for a few days afterwards just to make sure we're okay to get home.
Recently, on Saturday, hundreds of people attending the West Coast Taco and Beer Festival in San Francisco were met with long lines leading to underwhelming expectations. For many, the event was not what they paid for. I'm guessing this is a little bit like the beer festivals that we've attended around us. Do you know where you pay so much for a ticket and you get so many beers? It was probably like almost an hour in line, said Matt Jenkins, who attended the event with his fiance. They only had one person checking tickets at the front door, which was insane. I don't know. There were probably like over 1,000 people waiting in line, according to an admissions ticket. The event offered alcohol tastings and taco samples from over 30 vendors, so maybe there were multiple tacos too. According to Jenkins and his fiance, it wasn't anywhere close to that. It was not 30. It was 10, maybe. And the beer was a little sample, and the line to get in was very, very long. They also said none of the food was free. It was all extra cost. So you're buying your ticket for a taco and beer festival.
This is sounding less like a field trip I want to take. And
right? We had heard after the first 20 minutes, all of the free options ran out, said Jenkins, but no one was even able to get in by the time that it was offered. Blue Stream Entertainment, who was the organizer of the event, said, "We're saddened to hear about the reaction we've had coming from San Francisco. When we built this company, our mission was to bring a community together to celebrate local chefs and breweries. We are as transparent as we possibly can be, and we understand the community's frustration with the long lines and the limited tastings. We are currently working with our vendors to improve future events to make sure that we hold our mission statement true and improve the guest experience." They went on to have said that they changed the format for their upcoming event in San Jose. The tickets will include bottomless beer samples, and the food will be for purchase. Jenkins and Bautista said that they tried to ask for refunds, but haven't been able to get a hold of anybody. So, yeah, that's not one we're going to want to take. But
no, if I'm going to a beer and taco festival, I want everything included in my ticket.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, absolutely. If you're going to put it out there as a beer and taco festival, you should include the tacos in the cost for the ticket. You know, if you say it's a beer fest, but we're going to have taco vendors that you can purchase it from, that's a different story.
It's like the one we went to, that beer festival we went to. They had like food trucks there, but you purchased from the food trucks because it wasn't fun. It just said
Newtown, right?
You were just getting beer.
Right. And sometimes they include a voucher for so much money towards the food truck or the vendor, you know. On to better news. New Dogfish Head beer has launched. It's called On a Wing and a Beer. It is launching.
Believe it or not, it's just me.
It is launching on Wednesday, on August 7th. Dogfish Head Rehoboth Brew Pub, which I've been to a few times. They have some really good beers. I think one of my favorites is Namaste, is one of theirs. Yes. Brewing and Eats at 320 Rehoboth Avenue in Rehoboth Beach will launch the Benevolence Beer of 2024 on a wing and a beer. According to the brewery, the beer is blonde stout and was inspired by a variety of bird species that stopped through Delaware during their migration as well as the insects that help to pollinate the local plants. Hopefully, it's not the flavor of the birds and the insects. Let me see. The beer's ingredients include coffee, cocoa, blueberries, and bee balm. Bee balm. Play a key role in contributing to the biodiversity and health of ecosystems by providing food, habitat, and pollination services, which are crucial for the survival of many birds and insect species, the brewery explained in the release. 10% of proceeds from the launch night and on August 21st will benefit the Delaware Natural Society, according to Dogfish Head. Sounds like a beer I'd try. Trying to see if there's a ABV. Looks as if it's 7% alcohol by volume. I can't recall ever having a blonde stout. I'm sure I probably have, but nothing sticks out, you know?
I think, doesn't Guinness make like a blonde stout, or they call it like Guinness Gold or something like that?
I don't.
I think that's the only one I'm kind of familiar with. But yeah, I mean, I like Dogfish Head. They're usually pretty good. So
Yeah, no, they're good.
Mm-hmm. So we like beer, we like alcohol, we even like some soda and the occasional glass of water. But something else that we really like is coffee. Let's hear some words from Coffee Brothers now.
I love a good beer, but right now I can use a good cup of coffee.
Have you heard about Coffee Brothers?
Oh yeah, they're that coffee company out of New York, right?
Well, they're more like a coffee wizards of New York City. They source these amazing seasonal blends and single origin coffees. It's like a flavor adventure in every cup. And get this, they roast everything in small batches. None of that mass-produced stuff. It's like each bean gets the VIB treatment.
VIB?
Very important bean.
Sounds fancy, but is it worth it?
Definitely. Plus, they're a two-person team. I mean, that's dedication right there. Two brothers, one mission to caffeinate the world. And right now, you can save 10% on your order. I mean, who doesn't love a good discount?
All right, you've convinced me. Let's get some Coffee Brothers now.
Coffee Brothers, where every cup is a sip of perfection. Save 10% on your next order with the code FNF10. That's FNF10. Cheers to great coffee. Thank you for sticking with us after that short break. We are going to get into our main segment in a moment. But before we do that, I have finished my beer. So I'm moving on to my second drink, which is also from Warhorse Brewery. It is the Bombshell Hard Cider. It's their signature line. They have a whole bunch of different flavors of their Bombshell Hard Ciders. This one is the Strawberry Tangerine Bombshell Hard Cider, and very tasty. I haven't had this one before. I sampled it last time I was there and liked it enough to buy a couple packs of it. I moved on to that. And I have to shout out, we have two comments on one of our YouTube videos recently. It was on our Perfect 80s film from last week. Unknown Eclipse 8496 on YouTube said, "This is an interesting podcast topic." And he wanted to enter Clint Eastwood's Pale Rider as one of those underrated 80s films. And I had to look that up because I didn't realize there was a spaghetti western Clint Eastwood film in the 80s. Pale Rider was 1985.
Yes,
I thought it was the 70s. And at Caleb Hernandez 187 on YouTube writes, "I'm sorry, but the most perfect 80s movie is and forever will be Eddie and the Cruisers."
Agreed.
Greatest 80s film ever.
Agreed.
So
it's like Crybaby.
Yeah.
Mac and Me. Mac and Me.
Mac and Me is definitely the greatest 80s film ever. I just wanted to put that out there before we move on to our main segment tonight, which is the new topic, character deaths. This is movie character deaths that have kind of stuck with us, even, these many years later after seeing these films for the first time. And so each of us, go ahead, Kev.
I was just going to say, as we go through them, we really should say why their death was so impactful.
Yes, exactly. We should kind of talk a little bit about the film and their death scene, and I have clips for the death scene. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you will see a little mini clip If you're listening to us on an audio podcast platform, obviously you won't see it, but you can still hear the clip, and hopefully you're familiar enough with these films to know what's going on. So each of us made a list. I have 6 on my list because there was one I just could not leave off. But Kevin and Mike have 5. So we're going to do our usual like round robin thing. I'll start. Then we'll go to the first one on Mike's list. And all that. What's that?
And you'll finish.
Yeah, and I will finish because I have an extra one on my list. So my first one, I had to put this down because this is, as I've said before, my favorite movie of all time. The movie I've probably watched more than any other film in my life, The Shawshank Redemption, and in particular, the death of the kindly old librarian Brooks Hadlin, played by James Whitmore, who had been in the prison for the majority of his life at this point, was a used-up old man with arthritis in both hands. Red even says he probably couldn't get a library card if he wanted to because he's an ex-convict at this point.
Which is interesting because he ran the library.
Because he ran the library, yes. He is released, given parole, very late in life after spending, I think, something like 50 or 60 years in the prison. And because he's unable to acclimate himself to society afterwards, he decides the best thing to do is take his life. And it's an impactful scene for me because he was such an innocent character, even though he was in prison for a crime, which we never find out what the crime is. He is such a sweet, innocent character. He's one of the first guys to befriend Andy. They named the library after him that Andy builds in his memory and all that. And it's just sad to see this guy, after all those years wasted, deciding that he couldn't go on anymore because he can't handle, the outside world.
He has a pet crow, I believe, that he feeds. Jake, right?
Yeah.
Jake, and
he gets him back to health and he releases him before he's paroled.
Yeah. And he's such a sweet character and so scared of how much life has changed on the outside that he takes drastic measures. Spoiler alert, he takes one of the inmates and holds a knife to his throat. I mean, I know it's recently come out, so I didn't want to ruin it for anybody, but that's how distraught he is about the idea of going back into the world.
Yeah, and he figured the only way he could stay was to do something that would, force him to be put back into the cell and all that. But he ends up released, and this is what happens to poor old Brooks.
Tired of being afraid all the time. I've decided not to stay. I doubt they'll kick up any fuss. Not for an old crook like me.
I'm just going to end it there. We don't have to see all the sadness. I was thinking as I was putting these clips together earlier, this is going to be a laugh riot of a fucking episode. Another thing I like about the scene, not that I like the scene, but like that's poignant about it, is it mirrors Red's release later on, where he's thinking of ways to break his parole, and you see him carving something, and you get the sense that he's like doing everything Brooks was doing, only to leave and go find Andy, but he carves into the ceiling, where it says Brooks was here, it says so was Red.
I think he's in he's in the same exact room.
He's in the same room and all that.
Probably a halfway house, and he's got the same style of job, working as a grocer, local market. Yeah.
Great scene, great movie. So what'd you say, Mike?
P-Break Boss?
P-Break Boss.
P-Break Boss. You don't have to ask me every time you need to take a piss. Just go. Mike's first one on his list, oddly enough, I said this in the pre-show, all three of us have chosen at least one non-human character for our list. Mike is the first one here.
You guys didn't cry when Old Yeller died?
I cried. I also I had to watch this. I was supposed to read the book in high school for a summer assignment. I watched the movie instead, of course. And yes, it was very sad because the kid's he shoots the dog because it was his dog.
I was watching this in my house. My mom was on the phone with her friend. I remember, vividly that I'm watching it and I'm like, no. And they shoot Old Yeller and I run crying, sobbing into my mom. I was like, why did they have to shoot the dog? Well, why did they have to shoot the dog? He didn't mean it. He didn't mean it. He's a good dog. So,
with rabies.
With rabies, yeah.
Hey, look.
Mike, how old were you the first time you saw this?
Oh, good God. I had to be young. Oh, God. I mean, it came out way before I did.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was going to say, I was in high school the first time I saw it, and it still impacted me. So.
I was young. I was 6, maybe.
Wow. That's got to be rough.
Oh, come on. It was Disney. Come on. Think about it.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean,
then you got Disney fucking tears your heart out in like 90% of his films.
At least those most of those early Disney films do.
Oh, come on. Even the later ones. Up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see what we're all talking about here real quick.
No, Mama. There's no hope for him now, Travis. He's suffering.
It was actually a clip I took directly from YouTube, so it was only 20 seconds, but there's a little bit in there that got cut out, which is he grabs a gun from the mom and he says, "No, Mom, I'll do it. He was my dog." Before shooting, which kind of makes it, I think, is the part that kind of makes it the saddest.
So you watch this movie and then school makes you read, Where the Red Fern Grows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell have people got against dogs?
And then you read The Outsiders. Everybody dies, and then you go to high school and you graduate to Shakespeare.
Well, everybody died.
And by then you're so callous to it, you don't give a shit anymore. But yeah, Old Yeller is a good one. It's a really good one, and I don't think I've watched it since I watched it in high school. And nothing against the film. It's just it's. I find the animal death so much harder to get over in the movie sometimes than the human death. So, Mike, anything else you want to say, or should I move on to Kevin's first?
We can move on. I don't want to cry up.
Let's
wait. If you're okay with it, I'd like to jump to my number 3. That way we kind of
want to jump to your number 3. Oh my God,
Jesus!
As somebody who had to put down a pet in the last year, I edited this scene heavily because I just couldn't keep going with it. So Kevin's third one on his list, we're going to skip to number 3, is Marley, played by the dog Rudy, is the uncredited dog's name, and it's from the film Marley and Me. So should we just play the scene first, and then we can talk about it?
You might as well.
Here's the scene.
Remember how we were always saying what a pain you are? You're the world's worst dog. Don't believe it. Don't believe it even for a minute. Because you know we couldn't find a better dog. What made you such a great dog is you loved us every day, no matter what. That's an amazing thing. You know how much we love you. Love you so much. Love you
what got me through the editing that scene. You're right, Kevin. Told you this episode was gonna be a late ride.
No.
What got me through editing that scene was I had to just keep doing my exaggerated imitation of Owen Wilson in order to get myself through it. You're such a great dog. Wow. Such a you know why you're such a great dog? Wow, because you're a good dog. I mean, wow. It's an animal that is loved by its family, and it's always tough when you have to say goodbye to a pet. So
yeah, and it starts off he's the runt of the litter, it's a gift, and throughout the entire movie, it's really so many instances where Marley is just uncontrollable, uncooperative, bad dog, like he was saying. Every time we called you a bad dog, but you're not. But that's really when Marley is younger. And it's not just the dog's journey, it's his journey with his family and how they move and how they grow and how the dog is incorporated into that,
I'll tell you what, they should have did it to that fucking Beethoven dog.
Oh, man.
Jennifer Aniston, at one point, she's trying to conceive. She loses her baby. The dog comes in and you can tell it understands.
Mm-hmm.
And then its behavior with the kids and how much the kids love the dog and the dog loves the kids. And just seeing as the dog ages what happens naturally, So, yeah. Megan hasn't seen this. I told her we're going to have to watch it.
Oh, God.
Probably not until after the baby's born.
Yeah, maybe a couple years later.
I don't think I can take this movie with the hormones and everything else going on.
Yeah. It was hard just watching that clip.
Yeah.
Oh, so we go from putting down one old animal to another, and we get the second one on my list, Han Solo. Played by Harrison Ford in The Force Awakens. And the reason I put this on my list is, aside from Han Solo being like probably one of my favorite characters of all time in Star Wars, watching him be killed by his own son in film was like kind of a shock and a surprise. But also, I sobbed so heartily in the theater when I saw this scene that the guy next to me got up and moved.
Okay.
It's like, it's so let's see the scene.
Don't know is that the guy next to him was Mike. So
yeah, which I wouldn't have been surprised if it was Mike who did that. But let's see this.
Have you watched it?
Yeah, and I cried so loudly I sounded like Chewbacca at the end of that scene. So let's see this scene real quick.
Thank you.
And that final part of the scene is one of the things that makes it impactful too. Is that just is Leia, feeling it, in the Force, and then and
that was the edited version. I mean,
I heavily edited
was where they he not only stabs him, but then he lifts the blade up through the top of him, and he kind of peels back like a banana.
Wrong movie.
I think you're thinking of Terminator when you choose the liquid Terminator.
Yeah, because it came back together.
Yeah, like I did cut out a little bit of it because it's a long scene. But he says to him, I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. Which is kind of like maybe Han Solo was helping him kill him so he can I don't know. It was just ambiguous because it doesn't get explained much in the second two films since the two directors were fighting for creativity on those next two films.
Yeah.
But for me at the time, because I liked The Force Awakens and I enjoyed it the first time I saw it, and it was just a shock to me because it was not something I was expecting. You don't see too many main character deaths in the Star Wars universe, you know.
No.
So,
and fun fact, Harrison
mhm.
Ford had asked that Han Solo be killed.
He wanted him killed in
prior
Jedi.
to Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. So that takes us to Mike's second one. Good movie, great book, great movie. Michael Clark Duncan received a Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor for this film, playing John Coffey, an innocent man being put to death for murder in The Green Mile.
I'm tired, boss.
Don't put that over my head. I was afraid of the dark.
Coffee, like the twin brother, just not spelled the same.
Yeah. Great book, great movie, and such a great performance from Michael Clark Duncan.
He was he embodied a child really well.
Yeah.
That's what I got. He was just a big childlike innocence, childlike optimism.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the whole cornbread scene where it's like, do I have to give him a piece? It's like, no, that's yours.
Yeah.
You do whatever you want. He goes, I think I'll keep it for myself.
Yeah, like it's such a wonderful performance. Now, I had read the book. The book was interesting because when King wrote it, he wrote it as a serial novel. So he would release two chapters at the beginning of a month, and then you had to wait a month for the next two chapters to come out.
Right.
So I read it when it was a serial. You can now buy it as a whole novel now, but I read it as a serial novel, and man, it was like it had me in the grip because it was like I couldn't wait for the next month for the next book to come out because I just had to see what was going to happen next. And then when it gets to the scene in the book, it's very accurate to how it happens in the book. Like he doesn't want the bag over his head because he's afraid of the dark. You know, the guards are all crying because they've gotten to respect him at all at this point. It's just it's a real tough scene. Michael, why did you choose it?
Just because it's just you fall in love with this character and you're thinking somehow, some way they're gonna get him out of this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
especially when you know he's innocent.
Right. And they still
And waiting for that governor's call to come in.
You know what? The other thing was the relationship between him and Tom Hanks, and Tom Hanks understands what he is, and that he's like a miracle worker, a creature of God, and how deep it is for him. He's like, how am I supposed to explain myself for doing what I'm about to do to you when I'm at the pearly gates and I can't do that. You know, I can't live like that. And he's just like, don't worry, boss, you're fine. You know, it's like, man.
Yeah. So here's the scene in question.
Roll on one.
Does it hurt yet? I hope it does. I hope it hurts like hell.
John Coffey, you have been condemned to die in the electric chair by a jury of your peers, sentence imposed by a judge in good standing in this state. Do you have anything to say before sentence is carried out?
I'm sorry for what I am. Please, boss. Don't put that thing over my face. Don't put me in the dark. I was afraid of the dark.
All right, John. John Coffey. Electricity shall now be passed through your body until you are dead, in accordance with state law. May God have mercy on your soul.
We'll stop it there at Barry Pepper's snotty nose. Mike, are you crying?
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet. I'm getting there. This is a
there.
laugh ride episode. I'm so glad we
I
did
tell you. Clean it.
Yeah. Little fun fact there. The guy behind John Coffey that was putting the shit on his head and all that is the judge from Shawshank Redemption who sentences Andy to life in prison.
Yeah, but the guy in the audience was not red, but the other guy from Shawshank, the guy that got his
he
neck.
was the guy in the parent
part of
children
the
were murdered.
group. Yeah.
And
Was that done by the same director?
Frank Darabont.
Yeah, they did both.
I think it might have been because he's like a collaborator with Stephen King. He directed Shawshank. He directed The Mist, which is also a Stephen King film. And I think he directed this one, The Green Mile.
I'm looking it up now.
Frank Darabont.
You are?
Correct it or not?
Frank Darabont.
You could just look up The Green Mile and see who the director is.
I think I'm going to do that instead.
While you're doing that, let's take a look at Kevin's first one on his list since he decided to skip to the third one.
Let's do
the field medic from Saving Private Ryan, played by Giovanni Ribisi.
Another Tom Hanks movie.
Another
Tom Hanks movie, yeah. Wow. Oh, yes, he did do The Green Mile.
Yeah, because he's a frequent collaborator with King. So,
yep.
Giovanni Ribisi's death at Saving Private Ryan. In all honesty, one of Ribisi's best performances.
It is
tough scene.
Yeah.
Tough scene to watch.
It's a tough scene.
So why don't we? You want to?
Yeah,
do the
let's
scene
watch it.
first?
No. Watch it first. Watch it first.
Yeah, let's do the scene first, and then we'll talk about it.
More sulfur, Melly. Listen to my voice. We're gonna be all right. We're gonna be all right, John. Be all right.
Wait, you're fine. You're going on a hospital.
More sulfur.
Put my legs up.
More sulfur. You're gonna be okay.
Put my legs
You're gonna be all right.
I got him.
You're gonna be okay, Harry.
I got him.
Up him. Give me your canteen.
Pressure on him.
Come on. Get you out of here. Put some pressure on him. You're gonna be okay.
How's it look?
It's all right.
How's it look?
You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. Now I'll get you some. Here comes the morphine. Here comes the morphine.
I'm shot in the spine.
You okay?
I'm shot in the spine.
Lift him up. All right, easy. Come on. Easy. Put some pressure on him. Easy. Put him up. Okay, it's okay, dog. It's all right. Wait, I got an exit wound. It's in the small of your back.
How big's the hole in it?
It's about the size of an acorn. It's fine. Okay, put him on. You're fine. All right. Put some pressure on it. Put some pressure on it. Some pressure on it. Put some more pressure on it. Press on it.
Is there anything bleeding worse than the other?
Yeah, right here. You know what it is? Right here. Yeah, right here. I'm gonna put your hand on it.
We got some pressure on it.
Right there. Okay? What's the one?
Oh my God, my liver! Oh my God!
So
my
come on,
liver.
Wade. Tell us what to do. Tell us how to fix you. What do you mean? What can we do, Wade? Tell us what to do.
I could use a little more morphine.
Give it to him. Give it to him. There you go. Wade. Here you go. Here it comes. There you
want to go home. I want to go home.
Yeah. Tough one. So I had read that like field medics who have watched the movie said that the reason he asked for the morphine was because he knew if he had enough of it, it would induce a heart attack and kill him because he was already on his way out anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's crazy that he's like triaging himself because he's the medic.
And I think that's the part that made that whole scene chaotic was he was the one that would know what to do. Everybody else around him has like basic first aid training, and he's the one that's like, what place is worse than others, and is there an exit wound, and realizing his liver was shot, and all the chaos is big. But I think it's after he gets the injection and the calls for his mom and wanting to go home.
It's in a movie full of character deaths. It's one of the harder ones to watch.
Yeah.
I think this one and the Jewish soldier Mellish who gets stabbed by the German soldier, like those are the two hardest scenes in the movie to watch.
Right.
Because of how visceral they are.
And with this one in particular, he was talking about how his mother worked late. This was earlier in the movie. He was talking to Opum. Opum, I think his name was.
The little clerk guy, Upham.
Right, Upham. Yeah. And he was saying how, his mom would work late and sometimes he'd wait up for her, but sometimes he wouldn't. And sometimes he'd still be awake. And he knew that the only thing she wanted to do was talk to him to talk about his day and her day. And he just pretended being asleep. So she'd just walk away. And then seeing that scene where he wants his mother,
I tell you, after that scene where he tells Upham about pretending to be asleep, I'm like, oh, this motherfucker's dying soon.
What he was doing at the time too, and that happens throughout the movie. He's rewriting the letter to go back.
Vin Diesel's character, Capazzo.
To go back, and that letter.
I even remember at the end of that scene where Ribisi's, when he finally dies, Ed Burns comes over and takes the letter out of his jacket, puts it in his. Because they've been passing this letter along the whole time.
Yeah.
So from that tough scene, we get to my first animal on the list. From the never-ending story, Artax, the horse, Atreyu's horse, who dies in the swamps of despair because he is so depressed that he can't pull himself from the swamp. Now, this is a kind of a cheat because he does come back at the end of the movie after Bastian saves the Nameless Kingdom, but it's still sad and still something that kind of, scars you when you're a child.
Artax, please. You're letting the sadness of the swamps get to you. You have to try. You have to care. For me. You're my friend. I love you. Artax! Don't be hard! You gotta move or you'll die! Move, please! I won't give up! Don't quit! Artax!
All right. So I have so there's this I can't think of the name of it, but there's a account on TikTok that I follow that I like watching because it's this guy shows his girlfriend the movies that he grew up with that she's never seen, and he records her reactions as she's watching the movies.
Okay.
And after she watched this scene in Neverending Story, she's like, "I fucking hate you." And I'm like, it's a great reaction seeing that for the first time. Tough fucking scene.
Yeah.
Again, the horse lives.
But the reason why it was sinking, it was the swamp of despair. Is that what you said?
Like, the swamp makes you depressed, and the depression makes you sink faster, and all that.
Yeah.
And as somebody who's dealt with depression in his life, it feels like that sometimes.
Sometimes.
Moving on.
Moving right along.
Just another, I'm more happier.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, more happier death. No, Mike's third one on his list. Silas Tripp, played by Denzel Washington, who won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for this movie. Glory. I almost feel like this is like a forgotten film.
It is sometimes.
Like three of us know it, but I feel like it's a film like more people need to see. It's such a good movie.
If there was a way for me to put that into my curriculum with whatever I was teaching at the time, you know, Black History Month or the Civil War or military history stuff.
You could. It is based on a true story, so it would work for the Civil War.
Like I think I watched this in high school for the first time in high school when we did like a Civil War chapter. I feel like, but yeah. So what I did, Mike, for yours is I clipped together two scenes because I feel like they go together and they're like both pretty poignant. So it's the scene with Silas Tripp dying, but it's also the very final scene of the film with the mass burial of all the soldiers, which kind of like ties into that. So let's take a look at your scene and then we'll talk about it some more. So this is from the film Glory. So what I did was I tied together their Matthew Broderick's death, which leads to Denzel Washington's in the film, and then the final scene where their bodies end up next to each other in the mass grave of the soldiers. So, Mike, when's the first time you saw this?
When it came out.
Okay.
I remember my
I'm a
parents.
big Civil War guy anyway, so.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're into some of these films, and you're a big fan of like Civil War history and all that stuff.
My parents had gone out on a date night to see it. They came back, and I said, "Oh, how was it?" They said it was really good. My mother had said, though, in the very beginning, there's a shot where a cannon is fired, and the cannonball goes right through somebody's head, and you see like that explode. And at that age, I was like grossed out. I was like, I never want to see this movie. Eventually, you grow up, and it's like, oh, we'll watch it. And we're still work. Eventually, we're still working on it.
Oh, okay.
The scene, the triage tent where they're cutting off the guy's leg. I mean, there are a couple of scenes that turn your stomach. And although I do feel that this scene and just all of the people that were focused on in the movie when they died, it was sad. I think this was not as sad for me as the scene where Silas is captured for going AWOL and the consequences that he faced for that. I think that was a bigger choking, like you choked up for that one.
He's getting whipped and he's got the tear in his eye, but he's not.
Yeah, he's
not
got a
making
stone
sound.
face.
Yeah,
and he's a hard ass throughout the entire movie. And you see the stone face glaring at Matthew Broderick's character as he's getting lashed, the lashes, and his jaw his lips start to tremble, and his jaw starts to quiver, and then just this solitary tear that goes, oh my god.
Yeah, but to me, with this scene, is a changing for his attitude throughout, from the movie, and him leaning there, dead, but keeping the flag up.
Yeah,
is a moment.
Wasn't that
the flag in general?
Yeah,
yeah, and he had that whole discussion with Matthew Broderick's character earlier about when this war's over, nothing's going to change, and he's like, well, something has to change. And I think Matthew Broderick had talked to him about bearing the flag at that time, and he wasn't quite sure. He was like, it's nothing's, this isn't your war. He was just kind of like, unsure as to what would come of it.
Right.
Yep. So I love Glory. It's a movie I haven't seen in a while. I feel like I need to rewatch that at some point because it's such a good movie that I feel more people need to see. It's pretty historically accurate.
The character, the cast is unbelievable.
Yeah, great ensemble. Yeah, yep. Morgan Freeman, Denzel Washington, Andre Braugher, Matthew Broderick, Cary Elwes, and that's just the main characters. Like there's other actors who pop up in supporting roles throughout the film. That's a great movie. On to Kevin's next one. So this will be number 2 on your list, even though it's your third entry this evening.
I went out of order, but yeah.
Yeah, but we wanted to do the animals first, I guess.
All right.
So this is the second Dumbledore, Michael Gambon, playing Albus Dumbledore in Harry Potter. And which one is it? Is the Half-Blood Prince where he gets killed?
This is the Half-Blood Prince.
Half-Blood Prince, yeah. This is the Half-Blood Prince. This is the death of Albus Dumbledore, which, of course, comes at the hands of Severus Snape. If you haven't read the books before seeing the film, you might not know that this was all part of the plan, but it's still a sad scene anyway. So let's get to that one. I have 2 Harry Potters on here, so I have to make sure I get the right one. Hold on. There it is. All right, so this is the death of Dumbledore.
This is your moment. Do it. Go on, Draco. No!
No. Severus. Please. Avada Kedavra.
I have to say, even though it's a sad scene, it's a beautifully filmed scene.
Yeah.
Really well.
I like the extra little added detail of Snape doing this to Harry, telling him to be quiet.
Because actually, in the book, he's actually, I think, Dumbledore paralyzes him with the spell, so he doesn't move away, couldn't be seen.
Yeah. So this one's a little more personal because it's like, Harry's like, Snape's here to save the day, and then plus you have Draco not being able to do it, and Tom Felton playing really well in that scene as somebody reluctant. The fall from the tower is beautifully filmed, and Alan Rickman, of course, the great Alan Rickman, plays it so well.
And it's been six movies, 6 years fictionally of the bond between Dumbledore and Harry, and what's going on, and the trust and the love and things like that. Things Dumbledore did that he thought would be in the best interest of Harry, and Harry felt neglected. So that's why, I mean, it's poignant for that fact that it's just, you know, the one person who had 100% faith in Harry, you know, dies.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, like I said, if you're not somebody who read the books, it was a shocker. Most of us, like three of us, I think we've all read the books, or at least are familiar with the books enough to know that this was coming, but it doesn't make it any less, you know, powerful a scene. It's still pretty powerful, especially when you like see it in person like that. No, great film, great scene all around. My next one, the fourth one on my list, is Sergeant Elias, played by Willem Dafoe in Platoon, which won the award for Best Director and Best Film in 1986, I want to say. What makes this scene poignant is at this point, you learn that Sergeant Elias is like the nice sergeant. He's the one that's friends with Charlie Sheen's character in the film. He's always at odds with Sergeant Barnes, which is played by oh my god, why can't I think the actor's name now? The guy was in Major League.
Yeah.
I'll think of it in a minute. But he and Barnes are always battling with each other throughout the film. And it is Barnes's character who shoots Elias in the jungle and makes it seem as though Elias was killed by the VC, when in fact it was Tom Berenger, who played Sergeant Barnes, who shoots him. They then get on the helicopter, leave, and Charlie Sheen at this point isn't sure if Elias is really dead or not. Barnes tells him, no, he's dead. I saw him. And then this happens.
Hold your orbit. Guns, pull off. We're trying to come around back
So he comes running out of the jungle, raising his arms up to the helicopter as it's flying by, but it's too late at this point. And that scene of him raising his arms before taking one final shot is the scene that ends up on the cover of the DVD and the VHS for the film. It's a very iconic scene. And it's the scene that ultimately leads to Charlie Sheen eventually killing Tom Berenger's character himself as revenge for Elias.
Yep.
Great music too. Good selection of Adagio strings.
Such a great score for that film. From one icon to another, the fourth one on Mike's list, Tony Stark, played by Robert Downey Jr. in Avengers Endgame. I am inevitable, and I am Iron Man. The thing that gets me with this scene is everybody like dropping the one knee at the end, the captain and Thor and all that stuff. Tom Holland's great in this scene. I almost wanted to put the dusting of Spider-Man on here just because of that kid that was crying in the theater next to me, but since he came back, I decided not to.
Yeah, but
although I mean, Downey's coming back though, even though this is Doctor Doom, but he's coming back.
It's just the sacrifice and
I know what you mean. It's a great scene. Let's take a look at it and we'll talk about it some more.
Stark. Hey. Mr. Stark. Can you hear me? It's Peter. Hey. We won. Mr. Stark. We won, Mr. Stark. We won. You did it, sir. You did it. I'm sorry, Tony.
Friday.
Life functions critically.
Tony. Look at me. We're gonna be okay. You can rest now.
Love the little added detail of the arc reactor turning off too.
Yeah. I love you, 3000 guys.
I mean, Tom Holland and Gwyneth Paltrow sold that scene.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
His reaction and the whole "we won, you did it, Mr. Stark," and then it's hard to hear what the edit I have, but he, as he's being pulled away, he says Tony, which is probably like the first time he ever called him Tony and not Mr. Stark.
Mm-hmm.
And then Gwyneth Paltrow's whole "you can rest now" is such a amazing.
I have your money.
Yeah, like she said, I actually thought of that earlier. She was like, "We're gonna be okay," and I'm like, "Of course you are. He's a fucking billionaire."
Yeah, but live in a cabin in the fucking woods, guys. Come on now.
I was in the Spider-Man movie.
Oh. From one Endgame death to another, Kevin's fourth one on his list also comes from Avengers Endgame. It is the death of Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, played by Scarlett Johansson. Let's bring that one up real quick.
Damn you. Wait.
Let me go.
No. Please, no.
It's okay.
Please.
This was a tough one.
Yeah.
This was a tough one because it was. I mean, I thought of Zoe Saldana. I thought of Oh, why can't I think of her name right now? The character's name. Gamora. Her death. Because it was both kind of the same. You know, it had to be a sacrifice. But I think this was more poignant because it was Hawkeye who had lost his family, and now this is his friend, and he's willing to make the sacrifice. She's like, no, I haven't, you know, I should do it. You have your family. If this works, you'll have your family again. And that's why I think this one meant a little bit more than Gamora. You know, that she was forced off.
Plus, everybody had been speculating for 6 films at this point that Hawkeye wasn't going to make it anyway.
Yeah.
Well, you would have to. There's a whole comic book series called Old Man Hawkeye.
Here's the thing that pisses me off. How come she didn't get memorialized at the end like Tony did?
They had no body.
No, they didn't have a body, but I did see something. The whole scene on the deck of the river, or whatever it was, the pier. Somebody broke it down that the characters, it was
Thor,
Hulk. It was Captain America. It was Hawkeye, and it was Iron Man. Each of them represented a different stage of grief.
Yeah.
You know, there's
denial, mourning, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Acceptance.
That's interesting. I have to rewatch it to see that. I'll rewatch that scene just.
And their behavior in the scene reflects that too. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to rewatch that to see. That's interesting. The next one on my list, tough one if you're a fan of the Firefly series, especially when you find out that if Firefly had gotten renewed for a second season, this would never have happened. But we have to blame fucking Fox for this death.
One of many things.
They canceled Firefly, which led to the death of Wash, played by Alan Tudyk in the film Serenity.
I'm a leaf on the wind.
I'm a leaf on the wind. Watch how I
go. Wash, baby, no, baby, come on, you gotta go, come on, we gotta move, baby, please, you gotta move, baby, come on, Joe. Come on, go away.
So at this point, we shouldn't be surprised that Joss Whedon isn't afraid to kill off main characters.
Yeah.
No.
But when you watch it, and it's like,
back again. So
yeah, because it's like he was such a lovable character.
Mm-hmm.
Alan Tudyk is a national treasure to begin with,
Yep.
and it's such it's
like an unexpected death. Like there was no build up. It was like, yeah,
and there was no he didn't have any like final words to Zoe or anything. It was just like it just happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then her reaction afterward is sells it too. The whole, let's go, we gotta go.
Yeah.
And I wanted to, but I was like, this is gonna be long enough as it is. But I wanted to include the next scene where they're getting geared up for the attack of the Reavers rather, and they say, Wash, where's Wash? And she goes, he ain't coming. And like they all realize for the first time that like he's not, he's dead. It's such a amazing follow up.
Here's a story I heard at one of the cons he was at.
Mm-hmm.
He autographed his Firefly picture to a lady that had one, and he signed it. I'm a leaf on the wind.
Mm-hmm.
She broke down in tears.
Yeah, yeah, right. I saw a thing. They interviewed Gia Torres, who plays Zoe, and she's like, I could just imagine somewhere out there in the universe, there's a little half white, half black, curly, red-headed kid running around the ship that belongs to Wash and Zoe. So her speculation was that Zoe was like pregnant when this happened.
It is in the comic book.
Well, that's just it. The writers of the comic book took that in stride and created a child that is now running around on the Firefly. That is her and Wash's kids. Which makes it kind of sad, even sadder. So, from one great sci-fi death to another great sci-fi death, Mike's fifth choice, which I knew Mike was going to put on his list, which is why I didn't take it.
I would have erased it off your list if I saw it on there.
It is the death of Mr. Spock, played by Leonard Nimoy in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. His was the most cute.
Even insults him in death.
So here we go.
Spock!
Ship. Out of danger?
Yes.
Don't grieve, Admiral. Just logical. The needs of the many outweigh
The needs of the few.
or the one. I never took the Kobayashi Maru test. Until now. What do you think of my solution? Spock. I have been, and always shall be, your friend.
It's such a Spock death. I mean,
I know it's
he
but
gets
it's
up,
logical.
he straightens his uniform.
He's logical about it.
Yes, and it's just wrong.
Is it ruined by the fact that he comes back in the next movie?
No, because they end at the end of the movie anyway.
Yeah, it's. I came to Star Trek later than you did. Like, you were a fan growing up. You watched the original series and all that, and I didn't come to it a little bit later in life. So when I first saw this, it was kind of ruined by the fact that I knew he was coming back. But I still think it's an amazing scene, very well acted, especially for like, you know, a campy sci-fi series. It's a beautiful scene. You also have a pretty devastating scene before that when Scotty walks under the bridge carrying the body.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's another one of those things like with Star Wars, a show where you're not used to seeing main characters get killed and the main character gets killed.
They weren't wearing red shirts, you know. They're not supposed to die.
Well, he was wearing a red shirt in that scene.
Well,
you could also argue not that it's sentimental or hurtful, just the acting chops of Khan. You know, George, not George.
Ricardo Montalban.
Ricardo Montalban. You know, and his monologue as he, you know, exacts his revenge, and his all scarred up. He goes, you know,
I love Wrath of Khan, man. It's tops for me as far as like Star Trek movies go.
It's the bee's knees.
Which takes us to the last one on Kevin's list. From The Lion King, our fourth animal entry of the evening, technically, if you want to consider it that way.
As Disney tears our heart out some more.
Yes, and I'm assuming you wanted the original animated film and not the quote-unquote live action, right?
Correct.
So this is the death of Mufasa, voiced by James Earl Jones in The Lion King.
Long live the king.
Dad? Dad, come on. You gotta get up. Dad, we gotta go home.
What got me was the little tug on the ear.
This is a movie death that crosses species, dude. I've seen reels on Instagram and Netflix Facebook, where there are dogs watching this and they are whimpering and sad to watch the death of Mufasa.
It's heightened by how evil Jeremy Irons' performance is too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Long live the king.
Yeah, have I seen this?
And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Best adaptation of Shakespeare ever.
Agreed.
No, so such a tough scene. Like Mike said, it's one of those Disney heart tuggers, man.
Was this the first Disney male character getting killed? I mean, they all seem to have been mothers prior to that.
Yeah, it's usually a lot of mom deaths.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'll have to research. That's a good question. I'll have to look it up and see. I'm sure Google will answer that for me pretty
Disney
easily.
deaths.
What is the first male character to die in a Disney film? And that takes me to my last one. I have an extra one on my list because I really, really didn't want to not include this one. Going back to the Harry Potter franchise, it is the death of Snape, played by Alan Rickman in The Deathly Hallows Part 2. Not just the devastating part of the death, but the fact that when Harry goes and looks at Snape's memories, he finds out that Dumbledore is the one who asked him to kill him to help him get closer to Voldemort, because they were raising Harry to basically die, since Harry is a poor crux himself.
Sacrificial
It leads
lamb.
to one of the most romantic scenes in all of the history of Hollywood. Always. Here we go.
Take them. Take them. Please.
Give me something. Quickly, a flask, anything.
Take them to the Pensive. Look at me. You have your mother's eyes.
Really? After all this time? Always.
If anything's sadder than the scene itself is the fact that we don't have Alan Rickman anymore.
No, true.
But that man was never nominated for an Academy Award as fucking highway robbery. Oh, man. So that's such a beautiful scene. It's the scene leading up to it is Voldemort, of course, letting loose his snake Nagini on Snape, who is bitten multiple times, which was what leads to his death.
It was Voldemort was under the impression that the Elder Wand wasn't his because he hadn't won it, and he had thought that Snape had gotten it from Dumbledore. Yeah, so
it was technically, I believe, Malfoy's or something at that point.
Mm-hmm.
No, Malfoy. It was actually Harry's at that point because Harry had already disarmed Malfoy earlier.
Malfoy. Yeah, so they killed him. Killed him to take the Elder Wand, but of course, then we get the reveal that he wasn't evil all along. He was basically a double agent. He killed Dumbledore because Dumbledore asked him to, and he was in love with Harry's mom the whole time, which is why he was like secretly his protector and all that. So great scene. That is the end of our main list. I'm going to do some shout outs real quick, and then we'll look at our honorable mentions before closing out the show for this evening. On Reddit, we have Baby from the On the Mic with Baby podcast, who said, I got one, not a gut-wrenching scene, but totally shocking. Mark Wahlberg murking Matt Damon in The Departed. I was not ready for that. I don't think I would be. I was devastated by that because Mark Wahlberg killed a character that Matt Damon played who was kind of a despicable scumbag anyway. So yeah, it's not one that I was gut-wrenched by, but a little shocking. Actually, there's one from the movie I found even more shocking, which I have on the honorable mention list. On Facebook, Dara Gaffney, who is a friend of the Deluxe Edition Network, wrote Kong in Peter Jackson's King Kong. It was not beauty that killed. It wasn't bullets, but beauty that killed the beast. Paranormal, the New Normal podcast, gave us Iron Man from Endgame, which we already had on our list, of course. Our friends over at Back to the Blockbuster, Gaius and Jackson, gave us Mufasa from The Lion King, which, of course, we had on our list already. And that is, I think, all the shout-outs I had for this evening. We didn't get too many shout-outs for this, but that's okay. Here is my honorable mention list. I don't have clips for these because God knows this episode's long enough. So I have, we mentioned this already, Ellie from the first 15 minutes of Up. First 15 minutes of Up are so devastating in general. I have Rutger Hauer's death scene in Blade Runner. Mostly for the amazing monologue that he gives in that scene where he ad-libs the line, all of these memories will disappear like tears in the rain. I have Neil from the Dead Poets Society. That is the character that Sean Patrick Leonard plays, who kills himself at the end when he can't be an actor because dad don't want him to be and all that. I have the death that I feel is more shocking from The Departed, Leonardo DiCaprio's character's death. Because it totally comes unexpected. He gets shot in the head like by some like minor character of all people, and it just comes out of nowhere. And also from The Departed, the death of Martin Sheen, which is a very unexpected and unnecessary death as well. I have Michael Rooker as Yondu in Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Yep.
He may have been your father, but he ain't your daddy.
Mary Poppins, y'all.
Mary Poppins, y'all. I got Macaulay Culkin in My Girl. He can't see without his glasses.
And Macaulay Culkin in The Good Son.
Oh, he fucking had to die in The Good Son. He was the villain. I got another Harry Potter one for you. Dobby the Elf.
Yeah.
He's killed by Bellatrix Lestrange. I wanted almost to put the death of Fred. Is it Fred or George who dies? It's Fred, I think, right?
Fred.
It's Fred. But you don't see his death. It's only
Fred,
the aftermath.
It's George and Dead.
Yeah, Georgia Dead. That's right. But you don't see his scene. You only see the aftermath, which is the sad scene. But so I didn't include that one.
Well, that's because
and then the last one I have,
everybody else also dead too.
And then I have Gamora's death from Infinity War, which Kevin already mentioned a little bit earlier. So those are my honorable mentions for this evening. Gentlemen, how are your drinks this evening?
Very good.
They were good. I didn't get a chance to talk about the Brodello, which I opened about halfway through, probably earlier than that. Very good. It's a lime-flavored Mexican lager. I asked them when I got it, no jalapenos? They said no jalapenos. So this should not be dangerous to me later. But they were very good.
So during one of the clips, I don't know if you guys noticed, I left for a minute there. I ran to the fridge to grab my third drink of the evening. I have my third drink, which is another signature bombshell hard cider from Warhorse Brewery. This one is a raspberry hard cider. So I had a raspberry, a strawberry tangerine, and a Rolling Storm Oktoberfest from Warhorse Brewery this evening. All three were amazing, and I feel pretty good right now. Mike, do you have any beer trivia or history for us this evening?
I do. I have a beer fact for you. Stouts and porters look the same, and at one time, stout was a stronger version of porter. They are not as similar today, however. The main thing that distinguishes the style is that porters rely on black patent malt for their dark color, whereas stouts use roasted unmalted barley.
So we have a quote of the week, again brought to us by Mike via his Hollywood quote book that he has there. And Kev, do you have it in front of you to read it?
Mm-hmm.
Go for it.
Cinema is the most beautiful fraud in the world. By Jean-Luc Godard.
Yes. So if you're not familiar with who Jean-Luc Godard is, he is a French director known for some sort of sardonic, very cynical films that he has made over the years. So it's not surprising to me that this is a quote from him. That cinema is the most beautiful fraud in the world. We enjoy watching lies on screen, basically.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It's escapism.
It's escapism, yeah. So thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening for this laugh riot of an episode 160, movie character deaths that we can't get over. We're going to take some time to get over them tonight because all three of us are already on the verge of fucking waterworks right now after having to watch this shit. We hope you enjoyed listening to the podcast as much as we enjoyed depressing it for you. Don't forget, you can send us an email at filmsandfermentation.com if you were looking for some good therapy. You can also find us on linktree.com/filmsandfermentation. Find all of our social media podcast links. You can support us on Patreon or buy our merchandise at teespring.com or find out more about us and the other podcasts that are on the Den, the Deluxe Edition Network at deluxeeditionnetwork.com. Don't forget to stop by the Crossroads between Pickled and Fermented next time. We're going to try to do something a little more fun, a little less depressing. We're going to do another bracket episode, even though we did one already this season. I feel like this would be a good one to do another bracket for. We're going to talk about the best movie villains of the 1980s. We have been on the 80s movie kick lately, so we're deciding to kind of stick with that portion of the theme here. And we're going to look at some of the movie villains of the 80s, put them in a bracket so that we can vote on who is the best 80s movie villain. So please tune in for that episode next time around. In the meantime, I'm Leo.
Kevin.
I'm Mike.
You have been listening to the Films and Fermentation podcast. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.